Hey guys, it's Jessica, and welcome to the Library Dispatch, my weekly reading update. I had such a fantastic week this week. I finished 3 books. I finished an amazing sci-fi cosmic horror kind of situation that I'm going to tell you all about. A cozy but also dark indie fantasy mystery. And I finished a time loop story that I don't really know what I think about yet. So stick around and I'm going to get through all of those books. But before I do, I want to start with the question of the week. So be thinking about this question as you watch and go ahead and leave your answer to it in a comment. And the question of the week is, what do you think about books that blend genres together? So sci-fi mysteries, fantasy romance, what would be another one? Horror fantasy. That's one that I've been reading a lot of lately. And do you have a favorite genre blending book that you could recommend to everyone in the comments? I will have my answer for you at the end. You all already know that I really enjoy books that blend genres together, but I will let you know which one I'm going to feature today at the end. So let's go ahead and get started with the weekly update. We are going to begin today with the books that I finished, and I'm not going to go in order this time because I'm kind of going to go in order of what I think my rating for these books is going to be. And my favorite book of the week was actually really a surprise to me, and it was Murder at Spindle Manor by Morgan Stang. This is a fantasy mystery. It is a gas lamp fantasy, if you're familiar with that term, which I kind of previously was only a little bit familiar with it. It won the SPIFBO Award, the self-published fantasy... Oh no, what do the other letters stand for? Okay, it is the self-published fantasy blog-off. See, I got really confused about what the B was going to stand for. So it won it in 2023. It is the first of 3 books in a series so far, and in this story we are following Isabeau. Isabeau is a huntress. She is someone who has been charged by the nobles of her world, which kind of feels like Victorian England, but also it is most definitely not Victorian England. She has been charged by them to hunt down creatures, and in this book she is hunting down kind of a doppelganger-esque creature, a creature that is able to live inside the skin of its victims, and you might never know. So she finds herself at this country inn called Spindle Manor, and she is locked in there with 10 other guests, and then there is a murder. So who committed the murder? And who might be this creature that she is pursuing? And that sounds like a good setup to me, but I think that I was expecting this to be something kind of like a Deanna Raybourn story. I think it's the Veronica Speedwell books. I've read some of those and I like those, but I mean, they're not 5-star reads for me. And I was expecting it to be similar to that, but shorter. And actually what I got was something very, very different. This is not just a fantasy mystery. It's a fantasy mystery with horror elements. It has some really interesting world-building tidbits that you get about this kind of Victorian England-esque place, but also, like I said, definitely not Victorian England. It's also quite funny in places, but also there are places where it is legitimately scary, and all of this in about 200 pages. And it was not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to find myself caring about the characters, about Isabeau and her coachman that she is traveling with, Evie. I wasn't expecting to care about them so much, but I did. And then I loved all of the guests. I love a locked room mystery. First of all, that's always going to be something that's going to really work for me. But I was just surprised by how much I just thought this was great. And I will definitely be reading the second book in the series because as soon as I finished this one, I bought the second one. I just really enjoyed this. And if you haven't read this yet, if you haven't gotten around to it, I highly recommend that you do because it's low investment. Like I said, it's very short. It's easy to get into because it does have some of the touchstones of our own world. I think that it's going to feel very familiar, and I think that you're going to have a really great time. And yeah, it was my favorite thing of the week. I just really enjoyed it. And the next book that I read and finished this week was Is No Antimemetics Division. And this is one that I was super highly anticipating, and one that I know a lot of you all that watch my videos were really anticipating because you all told me that you were excited for it. And I'm here to tell you that it is 100% worth picking up and reading. It's a strange book, and it's going to be hard for me to explain, but I'm going to do my best. This is a republishing, a reworked version of a book that was self-published. It's part of an online kind of shared world experience called SCP. That's what it was originally written for. And I didn't know what that was before, but I did go and look at the website, and now I am a lot more familiar with it. The thing that this book reminded me the most of was actually the video game Control. And if you've played Control, it is kind of about a FBI type agency that is existing to take care of aliens and monsters and otherworldly creatures and all kinds of things like that. Kind of similar to like the movie Men in Black 2, I guess, but this was much different from Men in Black. This is very much darker and stranger, but it does have some similarities, but that kind of vibe. If you want to think about that kind of vibe. At the beginning of the book, it's very non-linear feeling. You are getting these little vignettes in which you are following different people that work for this agency. You're learning about the different artifacts that they have studied, and the things that they can do. And then in the second half of the book, and again, it's very short. This is another very short book, about 240 pages. It is going to go to a little bit more of a linear form, and you're going to get a real story, but it is a little bit still like, it's a little bit confusing. And I think that's intentional. And I felt like by the end, I did understand what was going on, but you've got to kind of just go along for the ride, I think, at points. So the interesting thing was basically that experience, the world that was built, the idea of creatures that you can't trust whether you saw or not. I thought that was so cool. I didn't think the character work was anything to be excited about. I thought it was fine. And you all know I'm a character reader, so fine is kind of for me. So that's the reason I'm probably not going to give this book a 5-star rating, but I did think it was really good. And I definitely am going to recommend it. If it sounds good to you, I think you should check it out. Low investment again, but just something like that is very different from a lot of other things that I've read, and a piece of science fiction, I would say science fiction horror for this one, that I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy. And the last book I read this week was the one that actually took up half my week because I struggled with it. And I'm still not really sure how I felt. And that is The Man Who Died 7 Times by Yasuhiko Nishizawa. This is a translated piece of Japanese crime literature. I'm going to show you all the cover up close because it's gorgeous. I love all the little people. It's just so striking. It's an amazing cover. And I really wish that I had enjoyed the story as much as I enjoyed this cover, but I didn't not like it. This is a time loop mystery. So we are following a high school student who his entire life has had this ability that he cannot control, where randomly a day will just begin repeating, and he will repeat that day 9 times. And then things will just go on. So the first 8 times are just like, it gets reset. So whatever happens in those first 8 times, it doesn't matter. And the 9th one is going to be the canonic version of that day. Okay, so it's a little bit of a speculative mystery because it has that, it is magical realism. We don't know. There's no explanation for like how that happens, but I don't think that's the point. It's just a plot device, okay? And at the beginning of the book, he is at a New Year's Eve celebration with his extended family at his grandfather's house, and then his grandfather turns up murdered. And so he sets out, because luckily it is one of those repeating days, to see what he can do to stop the murder. And that's the plot of the book. And that's a really interesting idea, but it did get a little bit in the weeds for me in the middle. It did do a little bit too much repeating itself. This book was published in 1995, and I would say that a lot of the aspects of it, particularly, I don't know, it felt dated. And I can't explain to you exactly why it felt a little bit dated, but it did. The tone itself was good. I thought the translation was excellent. I would read many more Japanese crime novels because that is something that I enjoy. This one just, I don't know, it was fine. It was fine. It took me a long time to read because I got, as I said, really in the weeds in that part where we were repeating stuff a lot, and I had a hard time wanting to pick it up. So would I recommend it? If it sounds really interesting to you, I mean, maybe. I would go in and check some of the content warnings for this one on Storygraph. Always recommend Storygraph for that, so you can see what's in it, just so you know. But it was just okay. It was just okay, and I'm probably not going to be recommending it, but I don't exactly know what my rating is yet because I haven't decided how I feel. Now we are going to move on to what I am currently reading, and I am so excited about the book that I am currently reading. I took a trip to my library because after I finished the Time Loop mystery that I didn't love, I got in a little bit of a slump and I didn't want to read anything that was on my TBR. It happens. So I went to the library and picked up some books, and I specifically was looking for this book because I had a commenter, one of you all recommended this to me a couple months ago as an underrated recent fantasy release that like really needs more hype. And then I saw it on another channel. I think it may have been Elliot Brooks, but I'm not 100% on that she was recommending it. So I picked it up and I started it last night, and I've read 12%, but I can already tell that this is going to be a hit for me. And the book is Birth of a Dynasty by Chinaza Bado, and I'm going to show you the cover. But then I'm probably going to put it up on the screen because it's just so shiny and it's so bright in here today in my library. So this is a West African inspired fantasy. It is going to be a heavy political fantasy. At 12% in, I am following the son of one of the local nobles in this world, which is divided into, so there's kind of an overall emperor, and then there are these nobles who are kind of underneath him, it seems like. And I don't want to spoil anything about the book, so I'm going to be very careful about what I say about the beginning here, but it has been dramatic. It has been intense, and the writing has been fantastic. And we are following this young boy, and I'm sure that we are going to probably have some time jumps and age him up at some point. This is the beginning of a trilogy. So far, the writing is just fantastic. The action scenes have been excellent. And I would say just like the immediate influence, the feeling that, it's not another Western style fantasy, which we all read so much of. Like it's so good. And I have not seen very many people reading this, and I'm not done yet. So, I mean, obviously I'm going to be back next week and tell you what I thought, but so far, it's absolutely fantastic. Why do I think more people haven't read it? I don't know. I'm not super in love with the cover. The cover doesn't really tell you anything about what it's going to be about. I think there was probably a way to make this more dynamic because I was surprised by how much action there was right at the beginning, but just fantastic. And again, so yeah, I do, when you all recommend me books, I do read them. I write them down and then I will go in and I will read them. So this is one that I want to thank the person who recommended it to me because I am enjoying it so much so far. All right, now let's talk about what's next, because as I said, I got a little bit off my TBR after I was feeling slumpy. I was feeling like, I don't even know if I want to read. And when I feel that way, the best thing I can do is just pick some stuff that I wasn't planning on reading. A library trip will usually get me straight out of that, and I feel like it has done it. I did pick up more books, and I'm going to give you the other books I picked up in my library haul in a moment. But first I'm going to mention the one book I know I'm going to be reading this week, and that is Slow Gods by Claire North. This is a science fiction book, new release that is coming out on Tuesday, and I'm first in line for the ebook from the library, so I know I am most definitely going to be reading it, and I have done the description of this a few times already. It sounds like it's going to be a literary space opera and have some themes of identity. And Claire North is not a writer that I have previously read, but I know that a lot of people really have enjoyed her other work. So I'm really excited for this one. This is one of my hyped books of the month. So I'm really excited for that. So I'm definitely going to be reading that. And then I'm going to show you, I have two books that I picked up at the library. And I have one book that I own that I'm also thinking might go into my week. So let's start with the book that I own. And that is The Witness for the Dead by Catherine Addison. This is the first book in the companion series that goes along with The Goblin Emperor. And I just did my cozy book recommendations video for the year. And I put The Goblin Emperor in it. And I was reminded of how much I love that world. And also I was reminded that I own this book. I picked this up at the library store. It's a discarded library copy. So this is a novella series. I think there are 3, and I think the last one just came out. and they follow a character who is a witness for the dead. And if you have read The Goblin Emperor, you will know what that means. Otherwise, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you're following one of the characters from that book who is a witness for the dead, and I am really excited to read this one. And I feel like at some point, maybe after I finish, this book that I'm currently reading that's very fast-paced so far, I may want something a little slower, and I'm hoping that this is going to be it. But I am reignited. I have reignited my excitement to read this series. So this one's on my list. And then I have 2 books that I picked up from the library, and I honestly don't know that much about either one of them. This first one that I picked up because I just read another book from the author. I just read The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre, which is, I would describe it as a cozy slasher about elderly people who are trying to stop the serial killer in their retirement home. Really liked it. So this is a science fiction book. And this is The Third Rule of Time Travel by Phillip Fracassi. And this is a book about time travel, and it says it's a time travel sci-fi thriller, that there are 3 rules of time travel that cannot be broken. One assumes that they will be broken within this book, or why would we even be mentioning it, right? So I don't know much about it, but if you have read this one, let me know if you think I would enjoy it. It's not super long, and sometimes I just like to fit in a super fun thriller, and so I was excited to find this one on the shelves. And then the other one I picked up because it would fulfill an R Fantasy bingo prompt. I'm doing really well on my R Fantasy bingo board. And this square I do have one in, but it's not hard mode. So I read The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, which counts for the Pirates square. But hard mode for that square is that it has to be not a sea pirate. So I picked up a book about a space pirate, and that is The Two Lies of Faven Scythe by Megan O'Keefe. This is about a space pirate, and that's all I know. Haven't seen anyone I know reading this book. I know that Megan O'Keefe has a really popular trilogy. It starts with The Blighted Stars. I actually have it up here. I haven't started it yet, so I haven't read anything from this author. This one's not super long. It's not nearly as long as those other books. I think it's like probably 300. Yeah, it's about 300 pages, so not super long, but I could knock off space pirates, and that would be really nice. So if you've read this one, let me know what you think and if you think that I would enjoy it. All right, so now it is time to get back to that question of the week. And the question of the week is, what do you think about genre-blended books? And do you have a favorite one that you will recommend? And you all are obviously going to know that I really, really love genre blends, that it is something that I really enjoy. I love particularly a mystery in a book. So I like a sci-fi mystery, a fantasy mystery, a horror mystery. I just like something that I read a lot of mysteries growing up. It was one of my favorite genres for a really long time. And so I think that that feels comforting to me. And I like the way that it propels the plot along. And I'm going to give you a recommendation of a book that has a mystery, but is also a fantasy. I would consider this to be a fantasy first, not a mystery first. And it's one of my favorite books of the year so far. It is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. And without spoiling anything, there is a mystery that our main character in this book is set to try to solve. And so that is going to propel the plot along for a great deal of the book. Now, I would not say that this is one that is going to like follow all the fantasy or follow all the mystery rules, or that's going to always give you all the answers that you want. But I enjoyed that aspect of it, and I liked that it had that little extra thing. The author, Antonia Hodgson, she's written a lot of historical mysteries, so she's actually probably really familiar with that genre, and it shows. And this is a really fantastic book. Highly recommend it. Came out this year. I'm seeing a lot of people reading it, so I mean, I know it's getting a lot of hype, but I think it's absolutely worth it, and I enjoyed the mystery aspect. So I'm obviously a big fan of that, so go ahead and leave me your answers to that. Let me know what your favorite genre blend books are. Or you can go ahead and let me know what you have been reading this week, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy quite as much. Just let me know what's been going on in your reading life. I would love to know. And if you're feeling quiet, go ahead and leave me the spider emoji, because one of the books I talked about that I read for this week definitely has spiders in it, and I'm not going to tell you which one. But go ahead and leave me that spider emoji. And I hope that you all had a fantastic week. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.